Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wired Nerdy Podcast. This is season number 3, episode number 9. My name is Keith. I'm here with Doug the Drizzle, drizzling on that coffee. He's sipping away. He's got his bed head rocking, but he looks caffeinated. I'm proud of him for that. We're doing this in the morning, right?
So, how you doing, I missed the makeup and wardrobe before our show today, but I've definitely got the coffee and a little food on board. I should be awake, hopefully.
That's good. Yeah, we pushed the podcast recording a little bit. We've had a busy week. If you didn't catch it, we were guests on a podcast recently, weren't we, Doug?
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a little long, but I haven't experienced that yet. It's a new format to experience. Yeah.
Yep, it was the Mr. Right Way podcast. He does a live one on Thursday nights. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. We were honored to be guests on that, and they
really good conversation.
It was fun, man. They go hard, right? And then I think they do it live because they're very brave, and so they had 600 views at one point. People streaming on multiple platforms, whether it was Twitch, YouTube. You can check it out on anything, but it's a fun conversation. It's very lively, unscripted. And what Doug and I do here, it's technically unscripted too. I mean, we have an outline of topics, but we don't have a script per se. But it's a marathon. At the end of it, I was exhausted. I don't know about you. Doug and I are not used to doing like a 3.5 hour podcast. We're babies.
It was different, but it was good.
It was awesome. They're great guys, good people, awesome topics, and they're definitely like right in line with what Doug and I do. Our big thing, we started this podcast, we always say it, is that to find like-minded people who love technology, love video games, love anything, all things geeky and nerdy, and they're right in there with us, and they hold their own. And it's hard to keep up sometimes because there's some smart dudes. They know some stuff, man. It's impressive. So It was fun. But for our podcast, we've got some fun stuff for you today. But before we get into that, because it's been a little bit of a time coming. It's a bit of a reveal on Doug. Doug always has these reveals on the show. It's kind of his thing. I think that's like your thing now.
It is.
You love reveals.
Well, let's not make it common. Running out of money over here.
It'll hurt his pocketbook. So
it is.
All right. Well, before we get into all that, you want to cue up the nerd news?
Yeah, let's get to it.
Nerd news.
So we talked last week, I believe, about Alexa Plus, and they're getting their own AI. They're actually getting their own version of ChatGPT. If you have Prime, you're going to get that ChatGPT 4.0, if I'm saying that right.
Yep.
But now we're looking at their Echo devices. They're not going to locally store your request, your conversation, stuff like that.
That's right. This is a big change for them.
And I think you might be able to explain that more on a technical note for us.
Yeah. So when the actual Echo devices first came out and they had the Alexas, you had the option where you could tell it to not send your voice requests and recordings to the cloud. And then what that would mean is it would process your request locally on the device. That is going away. Many theorize that's going away because of the Alexa Plus that's coming down the way that is integrated into the ChatGPT engine. So a lot of that processing, even with the OpenAI model, a lot of that happens in the cloud. They're probably doing this for efficiency reasons, but my gut tells me they're doing it for training reasons. So because if you don't have to force your customers to keep your voice local, you can then use that data to train your model and make it even better. So that's my theory. I will say I did sign up for it to notify me when this is available because I want to play with it. We'll talk about it on the podcast. If you're a Prime member, supposedly, you are going to get the Alexa Plus option just naturally as long as you have a supported device. Now, I have a lot of the old Pucks, the original OG Echoes. Yep. Those are in most of my rooms. I do have a more advanced Echo Show model. And I think I'm only going to be able to do it on an Echo Show. It doesn't look like the one in the picture here. It's much smaller. But I'm going to try it on one of those. But if you don't have it, you can pay $20 a month in order to get. If you're going to do that, you might as well, in my opinion, just go get ChatGPT because that's what it costs for ChatGPT. And they're basically handing that cost off is what it seems. So you're a Prime member. Are you going to go for this? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I have the Echo Dot. It's kind of the colored mesh ball that sits on the thing.
It's a little older one then.
Yeah.
Well, listen, how long have you had it?
About 2 years. Maybe.
Okay, so I think yours is newer than mine.
But then
my
I
dots,
just downloaded Alexa to my phone because I was told, if you have Prime, like you just told us, having that 4.0, I'll be doing a lot more stuff, a lot more picture rendering and image generation.
Yeah. That I use it on my phone. We use it for everything. Shopping list.
Yeah.
We tell her,
It's an
hey,
amazing tool.
add this to the shopping list or to the groceries to the household list, and then when we go to shop, we open up the list and it's our shopping list. So we use it for that.
Yeah, the other thing, looking at you, Apple, is we're supposed to have ChatGPT on our phones, but it hasn't fully been given to us. 18.4 or whatever the iOS update is, we're still waiting on it.
It has a somewhat. Every now and then, my Siri will, if I ask something, it'll say, "I need to hand this off to GPT.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to do that?" Now it does that because I logged in with my GPT account, and
Okay.
so it's because I have a paid service. But you are right. I thought I would see it handle the
Requests a lot
request
better, yeah.
a lot more often, at least. So, but they're getting there. We'll see.
Hopefully.
All right, next one.
Yeah, this next one now, my sister-in-law, Kamika, I have to throw a shout out to her. She loves Horizon Zero Dawn.
Great game.
So,
Two of them.
what the story talks about is Horizon Zero Dawn. The actor that does the voice, Ashley Birch, she thinks that Sony might be taking her job away, and we've seen this before with AI in movies, and the whole writer strike about AIs making stories and stuff. So here's another instance of AI may not be the best because someone may be losing their job. I don't know what your thoughts are on it.
Yeah, that's correct. So there's a strike going on right now about this very topic in this space. And she went to the socials in that the developer showed a version of Aloy, who's her main character. It's a very popular game. And they essentially made her without motion caption. That they reassured her, we did not use any of your data or any of your performance physically for motion capture, and we did not use your voice. To me, I'm kind of sus on that because her voice is very distinct. So I'm like, well, what voice did they pair to the demo? You can kind of see it moving here on the screen. But she spoke out about how this is really concerning because this is potentially going to put a lot of people out of work that are within the industry for certain video game character acting. So I think it's a valid concern. I don't know, man. We're going to get in this weird uncanny valley thing. I think you're going to see a dividing line. Eventually, all these strikes are going to land on a union specific that, look, if you do use AI and their performance, they have to get more compensation on the back end. I think that's what's going to happen. But then they're going to get enough data to where they're going to be able to create original characters they'll just use old trained data and they'll be able to make characters without them, and then they won't give them the job. That's what I think will happen. And then also on the back end, you're going to see those actors that'll probably embrace and say, you know what? For a flat fee of $1 million, I will give you my likeness and voice, and you can do this character forever.
I kind of like that too. Absolutely.
James Earl Jones actually did that with his voice for Vader. Don't know if you know that. Before he passed away,
I did not know that.
He did sign
for all
an away
future
agreement.
Projects.
Yes. So he did sign an agreement for that, and that's what they will do. So I don't know. We're in this weird mode with all this AI stuff, and I think
it's all coming out so fast, and I don't think we've had time to catch up to it yet.
It is, and I was having a conversation on the side. There's a streamer that's also on the podcast with us. A Omega is his name. He has an awesome content channel. Check him out. But he and I were chatting about this very topic right here because I sent this to him. And what he and I were saying back and forth was like, it's so bittersweet with AI. It can do so many amazing things. I mean, it can cure cancer. It can help people with mental illness. It can help people who are lonely. It can help so many people. It can be amazing, right? But then you got the whole stealing people's jobs, misinformation, people not thinking for themselves. Oh, yeah, and Skynet. So, it's a bittersweet thing with AI, seeing how all this stuff is playing out. We talk about it a lot on this podcast, of course. All right. Anything else, Dougie? You awake? You over there?
Nope,
you doing good?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Coffee's good.
I got to keep on him, guys. All right. Oh, I'm so excited. Have you looked yet on this?
I have. The Steam Spring Sale, 75% off some of our favorite games. There's a lot of $5 things in my cart. I just haven't pulled the trigger yet.
Dude, I looked at my wish list and so many things are on sale.
Oh, yeah.
This is my goal for today. I am going to go pull the trigger on buying some stuff. So depending on when you're watching this, this goes until March 20th.
Yep.
So we're recording on the 16th right now. But there's some good deals out there. You and I have been talking for a long time now about picking up Space Marine, which is the Warhammer game.
Oh yeah,
It's on
it's a
sale right
good
now.
$20 off, I think.
It is. Are you going to get it?
I'm thinking about it. I've still
I
got
think
some
I
money in
am.
my account, so that'd help me even more.
I think I'm going to, but then like you, I have tons of indie games and $5 games. And
Yep.
what I love about this is that, again, we'll talk about it a little bit later on one of the news items, but just the Steam Deck, it really does help drive Steam sales
yeah.
for me too.
Big time.
Since my main drivers for gaming, of course, are my Steam Deck and my PlayStation. But I obviously do have a gaming PC as well. And I also have an Xbox, but I did get rid of my Nintendo Switch. I
Yeah.
paused there for a moment because I was trying to remember what I was saying. It's just too many devices that if it collects dust, I don't like it. But I use these pretty
Pretty
consistently.
regularly,
Yeah. So I love the Steam sale. So if you haven't yet, go check it out. Some really good stuff out there,
yeah.
especially indie games that are on sale. And we had an episode about indie games that if you go back and watch the episode from this season, check out those indie games, and you can probably find many of them on sale.
Yep.
Boom. Do you like Starship Troopers?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
The OG?
there's so many one-liners and quotes that you can say from the movie. It's awesome.
It is. It's campy. It's funny. I have a funny story about the OG Starship Troopers. I think we're beyond the statutes of limitation legally, so I can probably talk about it. When I was in high school, yes, I'm
Here
old,
we go.
as Doug will remind you. When I was in high school, Starship Troopers was released. My best friend in high school was the manager of the local theater. And he would he had keys when we were hanging out, we'd go to the movie theater and he'd fire out the projector and we'd watch movies, right? Well, I remember we were hanging out. He's like, "Hey, Starship Troopers comes out tomorrow." Now, keep in mind, it hadn't been shown yet. So it was like the next day.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's like probably 2 or 3 in the morning. He's like, "Do you want to go watch it?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." So we go. We're in the upstairs theater because that was considered more the mid one. Like it's not as good. We didn't want to mess with the downstairs one because it was a fancy one. And as we're watching it at 3 in the morning, all of a sudden we see all this goo and it just splits. What happened was the film back in the day, guys, boys and girls, it was actual film. It melted.
Yeah. Oh, no.
And we both screamed and ran up to the projection booth. We spent that evening cutting the burnt sections out and splicing with Scotch tape together, and then we'd run it back through. So if you were in our hometown and the next day you went to go see Starship Troopers, you saw the Keith and David edit.
Oh, man. What a story.
So that's my fun story. Anytime I see Starship Troopers, I smile to myself because I was a stupid teenager. We did a stupid thing. We're so glad we did not get in trouble or no one found out. So I think we did pretty good on our splices. Nobody knew. They look like quick jump cuts. So anyway,
now,
back
I
to
have
the
to
point.
give a similar story real quick while we're on this.
Okay, sure.
So I maybe worked at a local movie theater.
Maybe.
Statute of limitations is way past due. We had digital codes. I'm not that much younger than you, but we didn't have film anymore. We had hard drives and digital codes. So one of my buddies was a manager at this movie theater. Will be remain nameless, but anyway. So every night before the premiere, like 2 a.m., they have to test the codes, make sure the movie works, all that stuff, because it's on a hard drive or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the pleasure of staying around till 2 a.m. and checking the movie with the director or with the manager, not the director. So
the projector
kind
operator.
of the same. It didn't melt on us, thank God. But
it didn't break, right?
Yeah, but 2 a.m. after a whole day of working, that makes for a long night.
It does, but it's fun. That's the point. So anyway, back to our point. Why we're telling these awesome stories is Starship Troopers is being rebooted most likely by Blomkamp. And that is the direct. If you don't know Blomkamp, he's actually known for a lot of different things. District 9 was kind of his breakout. It was an indie film. So good. Such a great movie. Yeah. But the thing is, they're going back. I don't know if this one's going to be funny and campy like the 90s version because it's going back to use the original 1959 book by Robert Heinlein. And did you even know Starship Troopers was based on a book?
I thought it had a comic, but I didn't know about a book.
Yeah, the comic would come later, probably around the time of the movie in the 90s.
Oh,
But
okay.
nope,
Okay.
this is an OG book. But a lot of people don't realize that there were some major authors back in the day, like Robert Heinlein, who wrote books like this. For example, Blade Runner, based on a book by Philip K. Dick, also written back then in the 1950s and 60s. So much of our sci-fi, believe it or not, people don't know, are actually originally based on books. So I think he's going back to the source material. Makes me wonder. It may not be as funny or as it can't be, but I don't know if he's going to do that. I'm for him trying. At first, when I read this, I'm like, geez, of course you're going to go do a standard IP that's already been established. But if he does it in a different way, I'll give him a pass. That's my 2 cents. All right, let's go on to the next one. This is a big talking conversation.
Yeah, we
And
talked about this a lot on the Right Way podcast.
We did.
Everybody's kind of just sitting, waiting, seeing what's going to happen. There's thoughts that it's going to be dead on arrival. They talked about that a lot. Their thoughts.
Well, the Microsoft one's going to be dead on arrival.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Let
To
me
be
get
clear
that
about
correct.
that, not the Switch 2 will not be dead on arrival.
No,
It's
no,
the
no.
opposite.
Yeah, sorry, the Microsoft. Yeah.
Yeah, they're saying
Thank you for
Microsoft is saying
correcting
that they may have a handheld, and we were saying that it's going to then have to compete with this, what Doug's talking about right now, and that may be dead on arrival. Sorry, Doug. Go ahead. I just want to make sure we're.
Oh,
good.
no. I'll continue with the experts really don't know the exact cost, but they're saying $399 to $499. Now, I've had a Switch before. This is a pretty good bump in
it's a jump.
price. So you're going to have some really good features, I think.
Yeah.
But we look at the sales of the first Switch. I think the sales were astronomical. I mean, I think it did really, really well.
Yeah.
So I would say this is going to do good as well, even with a higher price point.
Well, I'm curious too about, does that price point, are they adjusting that and estimating higher because of tariffs and chip prices, manufacturing costs?
That could be too, yeah.
So that could be it too. I think it's not going to hurt the device. I think people will still buy it because Nintendo is an established brand. It's perfect for all ages. I just think Nintendo has that sweet spot of consumer love. It's not going to slow it down much. But the other part of it is there's a lot of theories about whether or not it's going to, whatever chipset that they put in it, if it's close to up there, like equivalent to like even the current state Steam Deck, which it most likely is, it's going to be able to run some AAA titles. A lot of people are like, whoa, they're going to put GTA on it, coming out in the fall. There's rumors about them putting Halo on it, things like that. So if it can do more, maybe that's another justification for the price. But then also what's going on in the world economically, I wonder if that's also going to impact it with the chips. So that's my 2 cents on it. But I don't think it's going to slow down the sales. And I think it's still going to be a huge hit because they have a massive market share in place. So that's what I think. Are you going to get one?
I've said this a lot. I'm really waiting on that Legion Go S with the Steam OS on it. That's what I'm looking forward to.
That's where I'm at. Like, I loved my Switch. It was a great device. I am a huge fan of it. It got me back into handheld gaming. I love it. And I'm excited about this. My issue was after I got my Steam Deck, my Switch just collected some dust. I didn't play it as much. And now if you're really into the exclusives for it, like Zelda and Mario, I totally hands down, which I love those games. But I don't know, man. To me, I'm going to see how the launch goes. And I'm going to wait. And then if it's really like popping, like people loving it, then maybe I will. Maybe I'll pick it up at some point. But as of right now, I'm kind of holding off because like you, I'm excited about what's going on in the Steam Deck space, in the Steam OS space with what's coming down the way. So.
Yep. And just to kind of close it out, I think it's going to have no problem. I've been doing some research in the background here. And as of December of last year, the Nintendo has sold 150 million Switches. So, I mean, good Lord. And you talk about it's a 12% reduction in Switch sales. So it's kind of time with these Switch sales going down for a new Switch to come out, bump that back up.
It'll be a shot in the arm for them financially for sure. But this will be interesting. We'll see how this goes. I'm excited to watch it play out. All right. We had our episode on Dungeons and Dragons. And I know you've gotten back into it. We're going to use the table at some point. I'm still waiting on my minifigs to get finished painting. And our buddy, actually, he's got a minifig now that he bought, and he's going to get it painted. He and I were talking about that actually just the other day. We were making arrangements for that. However, there are tons of other tabletop RPGs. If you are into them, there is a sale going on discounted through what's called the drive-through RPG GM for Game Master Day Sale, and it's everything from Fallout to Cyberpunk. What's crazy is we have a place here in town that, or not here in town, but up in a town near us called Valhalla's Gate. We showcased, and they've got all kinds of tables. They have all of these, and I didn't realize the Fallout tabletop game. It's a massive box. Like a lot of these Cyberpunk, a lot of these that are video games have been ported over to tabletop, and they would definitely be worth a trial run. Now they have Alien for the Alien core book. Now these are basically just like D&D, but they're in these other universes. They have Dune if you want to play a tabletop of Dune. They have even comic books that are based on Blade Runner, the role playing game. So if you're interested in that, man, they've got like 40% off all of these core books, and if you're really into it, you can go check it out. So, what are your thoughts on any of these? You haven't played any of these, have you?
I have not. I'm losing my voice here. I've stuck to the 5E rules. That's what I was trying to think of D&D. I haven't really ventured outside of that.
Gotcha. So you stayed into D&D and you haven't branched, and I haven't either. I had a friend of mine that was really into a tabletop game called Pax Imperia, and he had this ginormous dining room table that he and his friends they had this whole thing set up with these little spaceships, and it's kind of like Civilization but in space. And they played literally. They had a game that would go on for like a year and a half, and they always would take pictures of their dining room table because they didn't want to forget in case the cat knocked something over. Dude, they were so into. So there's some pretty good tabletop games out there, and I encourage people, if you're into it, go check it out.
Now, we talk about Valhalla's Gate. There actually is a board game, card game, D&D shop downtown in our little town.
There are. I haven't checked it out.
Called
I need
Cardboard Castle. I know the guy who owns it. I think we were in high school together.
Cool. I need to check it out.
Facebook page. He's got D&D dice, all kinds of stuff I've never heard of. Which
maybe we'll take a trip into there this summer. Maybe that'll be something we'll check out.
Throw him a little free advertisement there.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea. All right. Did you watch Ted Lasso?
I did. I am all caught up.
Now, what'd you think?
I like it. It's good. Apple has some really good series.
They do. Right now, we're almost done with Silo. I just
finished that. Yeah.
We just watched the last episode of Severance, and the season finale is coming this Friday, and I can't wait. They're not going to wrap it up in an hour and 10 minutes. That's all I'll say.
No.
But no, Apple does a good job. And honestly, Ted Lasso, to me, was a very feel-good comedy. It made me laugh. It's positive. I love Ted Lasso, and I didn't think I would because I thought, it's about soccer. I'm not, but I loved it. It's great characters. If you don't know, and this is not a spoiler, but the way they ended it, the main guy that plays Ted Lasso, he essentially, Jason Sudeikis, he basically said, "Hey, I'm done. We told the story as we wanted to tell it, and the story is over." I will tell you, I did not like the way. I loved every part of Ted Lasso till the end. I don't like the way they ended it. I don't think it was in the spirit of the characters that they built, and I felt it was very short-sighted. That's my 2 cents. But apparently, as of this week, they announced they weren't coming back at all. If they did, they were going to do a spin-off with some of the other characters. But now, Jason Sudeikis is back. I do know they're going to film like the first episode or whatever in Kansas here in the States, and then the rest will be filmed in the UK. So I don't know what they're doing. I hope they kind of correct some of the story arcs that they did from the because it's such a perfect season or series all the way through, and then to have it at the end, it felt very Games of Thronesy to me, where like you do all this awesome character development, and then at the very end you do something that is out of character for what you've been watching. I'm hoping they correct it. So, what are your thoughts?
I think you explained it well. Yeah, I call it the Lost treatment. Ever since Lost, I've been scorned of don't end my series early, or don't, we're done, and write some terrible script and
or too long.
Early. Or too long, yeah.
Yeah, don't milk it too long.
Yes, yep. So that's my personal phrase of don't do the Lost on it.
It's a balance, right? You got to find that balance between striking while it's hot, keeping it fresh, but then also not milking it, but then not ending it too early. It's hard. It's very difficult to do. But
and I've got to give a shout out to Netflix because there have been some limited series, like 6-episode series, and they are amazing. Like 6 episodes,
like when they do.
Perfect.
They cap it.
Really good.
I like that.
And we're done.
But then they do stupid things. Like there was a show my wife loved called Daybreak. It was about a zombie thing. She loved it. and they just canceled it.
Yeah,
Like,
and that
no
Netflix
ending.
is guilty of that. Yeah,
So
big time.
yeah, it's a mixed bag.
Oh yeah.
All right, this next one I think is cool because I'm hoping it speaks to a trend that takes place more often.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed is got a new game coming out called Shadows, and it's based in feudal Japan. Now, this isn't so much about the game as it is a lot of people are excited about this. Personally, I think they missed the boat. If they could have launched this game before Ghost of Tsushima, it would be ideal. But the big thing is it's coming and to Steam Deck day one verified. Now, Doug, you may want to explain what that means.
Yeah.
What does verified mean? Like, see, I caught him. I gotta keep him
Yeah,
going.
I
Wake up,
believe
Doug. Come on.
verified is Steam Deck. It's going to work. All your buttons are
Perfect.
going to work because there's a compatibility issue of the Steam Deck versus a full blown keyboard on your computer.
You nailed it.
Hey,
Nailed it.
woo. See,
Ooh,
I was a
look at
little
that.
nervous. I'm like, okay,
He did it. You
get
nailed it.
the
Home run.
coffee going.
I know.
Yeah,
He didn't lie to me. He's got it. No, he's right. The big thing
cool.
is controls. He's right.
Yeah.
A lot of games, it's the keyboard. Sometimes you got to hit keyboard inputs for the game to do something. And even games that have controller support oftentimes don't work on the Steam Deck right.
Yeah.
They have to do some kind of a modifying, or you have to use a different layout, they call it. But I hope this is a trend that when new games come out day one, that I think it's cool they're verifying it early. Oftentimes up to this point, it has been delayed, meaning that when a game comes out, it's an afterthought. They will verify it for Steam Deck later. I think they see that this market is cooking or heating up in the handheld space, especially with, like you were talking about, the Legion Go coming out. I think they see our games could be played this way more often than just on a straight up PC or a straight up console. So we need to be able to be ready for it. So kudos to Ubisoft for doing this. This is cool. This is a good move, and I hope it becomes the norm.
I think a strong argument can be made that we are a more busy society. I mean, we are just on the move constantly, go, 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 go. So we can't, we don't have a lot of time to sit and play the traditional console. We got to have these things that help us play on the go. So I think you'll see an awesome market in the next couple of years. You've already seen it of handhelds getting better and better and better, playing more AAA games. Is that the right word?
Yep, you're right.
The
Yeah.
top title games, yeah.
Yep, spot on. So, all right, that does it for the nerd news. So I'm gonna stop
Hey,
that share,
yeah.
and I am gonna share something. While I do that, I want you to set the stage. What are we talking about today, Doug? You got a lot of explaining to do, young man.
I do. We have talked about me getting a laptop, being on the go, and all this cool stuff. And that kind of goes into our last story there of the Steam Deck and the handheld. I'm more or less super busy all the time, so I need something in my hands. The Lenovo Legion Go S, hopefully, if I said that right, coming out of May. I hope to get that back in my hands. But at home, I'm not moving around a lot. In the last year, I haven't taken my laptop anywhere. So, been
So,
talking to Keith.
I don't mean to interrupt, but explain your history. Like, what did you game on before and why? Like, start with how'd you get to this point? I think that's important that people need to know.
So I've been gaming on a laptop, and I've been able to take the laptop with me anywhere I go on trips and stuff. But then you introduced me to the Steam Deck, and I thought, oh man, I can leave my laptop at home. And I'm worried about dropping that thing. It was a beast. It was kind of heavy,
yeah.
And it's super expensive. So you introduced me to the Steam Deck. I'm like, wait a second, I don't need a laptop anymore. Well, then my laptop got a little age on it. We upgraded it, but it's still good. And then I thought, it's time for a change.
Yeah. And
so today I'm going to
change.
talk to you about, we got the first image up, a Thermaltake PC. And I keep looking over at it because it's beautiful. It's got some RGB, and I have something to look at rather than just a closed laptop with the lid shut.
Yeah, so you pulled the trigger on a pre-built PC. Now, we had the conversation. You talked about building yourself. Like, should you do a self-build? Should you do a pre-build? And remember, on this show, we always try to guide you if you're into like this kind of stuff, because there's a lot of information out there, and a lot of it's great. And I encourage you to look on YouTube, but we try to take our experience and share it as well. But you explored what you were going to do. Where was your lean and why? And where are you at with, like, why'd you do a pre-build versus building yourself and that sort of thing? Like, where are you at with that?
Finances are always a worry for me, so I have to truly say that this just met my budget. I would love to build a PC, and I think with my first real desktop. I've had desktops when I was a kid, whatever. But this is my first real desktop, and this gets me into, okay, from now on, I'm gonna upgrade this. I'm not gonna buy a whole new machine. I'm gonna swap out graphics cards and stuff. So this first image, this is what I like. We are actually upgrading this with my laptop. We could upgrade it, but we can't really open it up and change everything. So that's my love of getting a desktop. Hopefully I explained that right. This one, I looked online and I found everything I wanted. So my kind of thing is it needs enough RAM, it needs enough memory, and then the graphics card, it just needs to play what I'm playing now. And it met all the checkbox or checked all the boxes.
Yeah. So
So
I say on this, yeah, if you don't mind, like I'll just jump in here. Like he got a crazy deal on this, guys. Like,
yeah,
so we did talk about, hey, let's help you build. I'll teach you how to build a machine. But we've talked about it before. What's going on right now in the market space? I always say it's like the video cards are like hellscape right now. Finding a modern video card, whether it's a RTX 4000 series or even a 5000 series, you can't get them. And if you do find them, scalpers have them like so it's a problem right now in the market. So when I was like, Doug, you said you were going to wait till Black Friday, maybe, and we were hoping that the video card market would settle down and we'd build you one then, right?
I am really worried about the tariffs, not to get political on the show at all, but tariffs are kind of scary because it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't hurt the people putting the tariffs on. It hurts us, the end consumer. And that's what I was really worried about is tariffs on graphics cards, computers and such. So I went ahead and pulled the trigger to get one.
I think it was smart because there's going to be higher prices on chip. We just talked about that with the Switch too. There's going to be higher prices coming down the way. That's one. Two, there's supply issues with video cards right now. That's the other thing. And then you found like the only way you can really get a video card, even 4005, is to do pre-build right now.
Yeah.
And so
they're sold out everywhere. Yeah,
exactly. And they have a separate, the way video cards typically work, they have a separate supply from manufacturers agreements to companies that do pre-builds. So that's why you can buy a PC with a new video card in it. You can. Now, the other side of this was not only is there the shortage, not only are the costs going to, as we march into the fall, we head into the summer, fall, prices are probably going to go up on this stuff. All these factors, you're weighing it out. But then out of nowhere, you were going to wait. You found this pre-build and the price was awesome. And then the video card was fascinating. I want you to talk about, you can see it here in the picture, and I'm going to keep flipping through this. So talk about your logic on the video card and what we've talked about, because it ties to the podcast.
Absolutely. We've talked about it before. As you can see in the picture, it is an Intel Arc, and we've talked about those. This is Intel's chance to kind of make a lower price, not lower end, lower priced graphics card to compete with NVIDIA, AMD, and that. So this is a Intel Arc B580, like Tim Taylor on Home Improvement. But
it's a BT 580,
yeah, and it's running great. So it is similar. I think we looked up to a 4060, which oh my gosh, that's amazing. I was running a 3060 desktop edition or laptop edition, and I want you to explain this in a second. So laptop edition, look at the size of this compared to your hand in there. It's huge. So if you could explain real quick a 3060 laptop version versus a 3060 desktop version.
Yeah, so we had this conversation because Doug, I think you were surprised when we opened it up. You're like, dang.
That thing
you were surprised at the
CPU.
You were also surprised by the CPU cooler, which is up north here.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And he's like, that's the cooler? So and he wanted to know what's the difference. So really quick, very basic is this.
Yeah.
Gaming laptops are very good. They're very good for on the go. They're fit for purpose, but they do not. A lot of PC master race, why they call them that, is because they love desktops because they are superior. And here's the main reason why: it's just physics. You have more space in the case for air, and cool components are faster components. You also have larger real estate in way of the board size, so all of that equals to more lanes of highway when processing things, and it's just faster. So even if you had a desktop with a NVIDIA 3060 video card in, that's about the size of this Arc here, and then you had Doug's OG laptop with the 3060, the desktop will almost always do better, because what happens is there's something called thermal throttling. That just means it gets hot, and the minute the chips get hot, it's got to cool them down. And while it's hot, what happens is the operating system and the software, the game, whatever you're doing, it starts to throttle back, meaning you don't get as good as performance, so it doesn't cook itself. Inside of desktops, you obviously don't have as much of a risk of that because the ambient temperature stays lower because you have more air. You see all these fans in here? These air, the air intake on the base here, this is sucking air in. And then on the back end, he's got a fan that's blowing the air out. And then, of course, you have it withdrawing heat from the CPU up top. You also have it withdrawing heat here from the Intel Arc itself. So air, it boils down to you have more space, you have more air, you have happier components. Those happier components are almost always faster. And then, of course, the card's so big because it's a larger space, the card's bigger. It has more capabilities than when they try to cram it down into a laptop. So this boils down to physics. It's space. Because you got more space, you can go faster. Think of it that way. It's like lanes of a highway, man. You can have more traffic when you have 8 lanes of highway versus 2. That's the best way to think of it. And this card, it's called a Battle Mage. The first series of these kind of sucked, and everybody laughed at Intel because up to this point in the market, it's pretty much AMD or NVIDIA. They're like the two gorillas that make video cards. Those are your options right there. And they're good in their own rights. NVIDIA is considered expensive, but I mean, back and forth, right? But there's supply issues. Well, Intel entered the fray about a year ago, and everybody was like, well, these cards did not perform well. But then this model came out, and this Battle Mage series, I believe it's about $200 to $250. And the equivalent card is, shoot, man, you're looking at almost $400 to $800, especially right now. So that's how much cheaper this is. But the performance he's getting out of it is equivalent to a anywhere from $400 to $800 card. Just for perspective.
Yep. Yeah. So to kind of continue my journey, we get the PC. It's got 1 terabyte of SSD and 16 gigs of RAM, as you can see in the picture. So right now, you see Keith has assisted me. 1, with not blowing up my brand new computer with some static discharge, and 2, he's installing a 2 terabyte SSD.
You can see him clipped here. And so, Doug has carpet in his office. So we had to go through PC rules. So I am wearing a static strip. I don't always, because typically I just touch the case. But I didn't want to blow up I would feel so bad if I blew up his computer.
Oh, absolutely.
Right when he got So I am wearing a static strap on it. So that's a good call out there, Doug. And then you can see the chip. That's the M.2 you bought. Now, what size was that?
2 terabyte. They had a really good deal on Amazon.
And it came with a 1 terabyte.
It did. So I'm rocking 3 at the moment. The 1, they'll be on my operating system, all that stuff, and I'll put my games on this one.
And right here, this little, I don't know if you can even see my mouse, there's a little socket right there. That's where we installed that chip. So when you see my hand right here, it's fuzzy because of the field of view effect, because it's zooming in on that monster Battle Mage card. You can see down here below, I'm putting that chip right in that slot, and that will expand him up by 2 gigs. Yep. And of course, do you want to talk about your specs, or do you want to flip through, because you do have a single gig or a single stick of RAM here? Where do you want to go next on this little journey?
Single stick of RAM. I think my upgrade further is all the way at the end. But
is it?
RGB,
this is your first picture.
This is really cool. We turned it on. It's alive. It's working great. All the RGB. I've never had that before. I had it on the keyboard, but I always shut my laptop, so I never got to experience that.
Yeah, this is with,
and it's just a beautiful thing to look at. The desktop.
I like the white. Inside. The inside's white, right?
It pops really well. And then that blue case, it's like a baby blue case.
Yeah, it's a beautiful.
Different color, but it looks great.
Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. You're blinded by the RGB, though, aren't you?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, if you want to jump into this. I don't know what order the photos are in, sorry.
So the next one, now you might, if you could explain this real quick about not mixing different RAM stick.
This is one of the key things. Let's go back to this photo here. So what he has, they came with 16 gigs of RAM, and they put it on a single chip. Nothing wrong with that. Most of the time, though, when you buy RAM kits, they're always going to be in pairs. Why? Because the DDR, which is the form factor for chips nowadays, it's dual channel memory, meaning it works best when there's 2. Again, I go back to the lanes of highway. It's able to divide up the traffic of what it's storing and processing, going in and out. You're just adding more lanes of the highway. So it's always better to have a 2-chip setup than 1. He's got 4 slots here. And right now and it's okay. They probably did it to save money. They put a single chip in. Yeah. But Doug was like, and 16 gig is good. Like, it's fine, right? We did a benchmark, but you wanted more RAM, right?
Yep,
and
I've
you wanted
always
to bump it.
had at least, well, my last gaming laptop 32, and 32 seems to run
It's a
all my
sweet spot.
games so well.
Yeah, and that is where we get to these. This is your pair that you picked,
Yeah.
right?
So I went up from 5600, and I believe that's the speed, right? And you can see on the
Yes.
package here
Yep.
to
64.
6400 and a 32 gig set, so
Yep.
16 and 16.
That's the transfer rate. Read
Yep.
write transfer rate at how many MTs is again. I won't get into the technicals, but yes, that's the speed of the RAM. So you actually not only did you increase the RAM, you increased the speed.
Yep.
So
And then, of course, I had to go with white to match my case, to match all the aesthetics, if I'm saying that right.
I remember you were looking at RGB chips, but you were like, I don't need like you have so much RGB in it. Why do you need RGB chips?
Yeah,
And I was
no.
like, dude, I wouldn't do
This
RGB.
thing I'm looking right now, it's going rainbow pattern. It's crazy.
Yeah. Now this is before you did the memory upgrade.
Yep. There is a picture with the upgraded memory.
Ooh,
There it goes. Yeah,
there she goes. That's beautiful.
it looks great with the
Look at
fan
that.
and the graphics card and everything.
I'm glad you went with the white. It fits the interior so much better with the motherboard. I mean, I
Yeah,
think it looks
I remember I
awesome.
had to call you because those things, they it takes a little force to snap those puppies in there.
What's
And
different
I
about
was
these,
worried
yeah,
about
breaking the
messing it up.
motherboard.
Yeah.
It is a little different in that the post on your motherboard. So most of the time on motherboards, you have a clip on this end and a clip on the top end. He only has a clip on one end, so that means he had to have put it in the
And
guide.
it goes straight down.
Yeah,
It has little cutouts on it.
yeah.
So I thought I like push it in and then rock it forward. No, it like
I know
straight
you were
sli-
nervous. He was
slides
texting me.
straight down. I
He's
was
like,
so
"How hard do
nervous.
I push?" I'm like, "Well, you need to hear it click." He's like, "I didn't hear it click."
Yep. So I had to, and then I powered it on. I forgot to tell you this. I powered it on. It did nothing because I didn't have it
Uh-oh.
fully seated.
That's right. That's why I told you. Make sure you put it up. But you
So
got there. You
yep.
got there. Look at
It-
that. You did good. Honestly, I like the white aesthetic of those heat sinks better than I do the RGB because
Yeah,
you have
I
so
do
much
too.
RGB in it. Looks dope. That looks so cool.
Well, and that's another thing. I'm having you explain a lot. Can you explain? And I don't know if you did already. The A1, B1, A2,
No,
B2.
I didn't get there. So what he's talking about, see these slots here?
Yeah.
You need to be mindful. Like most people would think that you would just put it. I got two chips. I'm going to put one chip in this slot and one chip in this slot. I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Actually, these are paired slots. So what that means is you have an A1, and then right here you have a B1. And then you'd have, or is it? I think it starts with 0. AO, BO, A1.
I'd have to look at
B1.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to go back. Either way, there is a preferred slot. So if you only have two, you got to make sure you get them in the right slots, or the RAM will not actually perform exactly the way that it should. And you want it to be as fast as it can be. So we went into, always read the manual, my friends. We went into the motherboard manual. We had to find it online because it didn't come with one.
Yeah.
But we did. He has the motherboard model there. We looked it up, and he made sure that he put it in the exact right configuration. Now, if you got 4 chips of RAM, it doesn't matter. Fill them up.
Yeah.
You're good. But you
But
do
they've
want
all-
them to be. Yeah, you said it, that you want them matching.
Yeah, I was going to say they all
Yep.
got to be the same. Yeah.
They don't have to be. You can run a PC mix match, but I'm telling you this, man. I've done it. You're asking for some oddities sometimes. Random blue screens, especially this RAM. It has what's called an XMP profile. You can go into the BIOS. You can overclock this RAM.
Oh,
If he
man.
wanted to push it beyond that, he could. There's a higher speed he could run these at. If you're doing that, and you can do that, as long as you got great cooling in your case, you can do that. But you better make sure you have them in the right slots, or it's going to freak out on you. You're going to get blue screens of death, or it won't boot. It won't post what it's called, all the way through. So that's through that. I'm gonna click on through these pictures here. Looking good. That's after you had it finally booted up and all seated correctly. Looks like.
Yeah.
God,
and
look
the
at all
thing
that
I
RGB.
like, there's now correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of room to expand with fans and
You do.
maybe a bigger motherboard in the future.
Yeah, this is a standard case, and down here in this lower bay area, he has his power supply, but he also has room for. Boy, this motherboard had. I can't remember, like
Tons.
4 to 6 SATA.
I'm looking, it's got a lot of them.
Yeah. So basically, if he wanted to do non M.2 storage, like he just wants tons of storage, all down here in this lower bay are caddies or trays that he can slide these things. They're about the size of a deck of cards. And these cables could run up through here, very similar to what you see on the video, and it would go to the motherboard. He could load this thing up with hard drives if he wanted it to be like, maybe he's wanting to pirate and have his own Plex server and get away from Netflix. He could do that. Like, He's got tons of options. So this is a standard case. He could add more fans, but he'd have to go up to the top here. Clearance is kind of tight. But what if he could do, if he wanted to remove that, right here is the air cooler for the CPU. He could do what's called an all-in-one water cooler, but that would mean he'd put a radiator with like 3 to 4 fans up here at the top, and then tubes would then go to his processor to cool it. So he's got options. Now, what's the processor in this, and what are your upgrade plans for this in the future? Because this is just a starter system. You got a killer deal on it. You got the RAM in it. It's a beast. It performs really well. But where do you think you could possibly go with this, with all this room in the case?
You know, you look down the list of what's upgradable. I think the RAM's good. I think the storage is good. Believe we would want to do the processor, right? And then a bigger graphics card. So that's the old RAM there. But
Yeah. I was just clicking through here. There you go.
Yeah, I think my next upgrade would be a processor. We looked at the board, what the board supports, and it supports i7s and i9s up to the 14th generation, which that's the current gen.
Yeah, you currently have an i5, 14 gen. I do want to make a comment for people that may throw stuff in hate in this in the comments. Intel did have a problem with their 14 gen CPUs, and the problem was that they were overheating, and they fixed it supposedly through firmware upgrades. I do want to clear out. We did check when Doug was looking at this. I made sure the i5 14th gen did not suffer this ill. I want to be clear about that.
Yep.
Now, the i7 and above did. So one thing he's got to be careful of, and it's good that he's waiting. If he were to go to an i7 or an i9, giving it time until they get that corrected, it technically should be corrected now.
Yeah.
But what was happening was the processors was getting too hot because they had the voltage regulation wrong on it, and it was burning up, and people were pissed. Understandably so. He does not have that problem with an i5. So this is a perfect starter. And by the way, there's an i3. There's a step below his. So he's mid-tier on his processor. But yes, you could go processor upgrade all the way up to an i9. You can obviously add more RAM. Then there's that video card. But what did I tell you? If you upgrade the video card, what should you also upgrade?
My power.
That's right. That's right. Because this is a
650 watt.
Yeah. And he can get away with that because he's got a very power efficient build here. The Arc is known for it's a powerhouse compared to like what its power draw is, and so is his processor. So he's getting like the biggest bang for his buck on power. But if he were to go to anything higher than this, like a 4000 series or a 5000 series, I would minimum 850 watt power supply. I would push him towards 1000.
Yeah.
Just because they are now saying the current 5000 series card, they draw by themselves almost the equivalent of his power supply right now. I read the 5090 can pull like 600 watts. Dude, that's your whole power supply.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it won't boot up.
Lord.
But you got options, man, and he can piecemeal it as he goes. And here's the thing. Let's say Doug's like, you know what? I don't want to hassle with the 14th gen Intel anymore. I want to go AMD. Or I want to go 15th gen when it comes out. What do? He just replaces that whole motherboard and just gets a motherboard processor. He can use the same RAM, same video card if he wanted. And he can even use the same power supply if he's stuck within that class. So what we're talking about here, these are the options you have as a PC. He can swap these out like Legos, and it costs so much less. Because every time you buy a new laptop, you're spending $1,500 to $2,000, right?
Yeah.
Where this, it's way cheaper to get an upgrade.
It was below 1,000, I'll say that. So I did.
Yeah.
Got a really good deal. And then this picture right here, the ports, my goodness. That was the problem with the laptop is
lots of ports.
I only had a couple ports, no display ports. So my resolution, my refresh rate were pretty low on games. So all that's bumped up again.
You were using HDMI before, weren't you?
I was. And the refresh rate was stuck around 90, even though my monitor will do a higher.
Yeah.
So I'm at 144 refresh now.
So you even got a bump on your monitor because now you can use the full specs of your monitor because not only the video card's better, but you got DisplayPort. And you were running out of ports before. They were.
The other issue, speaking of the monitor I had, was it was trying to revert between the resolution of the laptop screen, which was a higher rate even than my monitor, but a lower screen. And then that. So I was having some issues flipping back and forth.
Yeah. It's beautiful, man. You got some beautiful shots here of this. Look at this. Look at all them saddles. There's 4 right there, and I know there's more up on the top end.
Detailed ones there.
Look at that.
And that's the one we installed. Yeah,
that's the one we installed. So, it honestly, for sometimes pre-builds get a bad rap, but even nowadays it doesn't matter as much anymore. Pre-builds are really good. for what he paid, guys, like sub $1,000. It is a beast, and we'll get into. We ran it through its paces because I'm like, all right, this is great. First thing we did. Now, keep in mind, this is only with the 16 gigs of RAM stock. We jumped into Red Dead Redemption 2 and we did the benchmark testing, right?
Yep. I have not tested it again. I meant to do that this morning. But.
That's all right. We've been in a hurry. It's been a busy weekend. But I mean, you look here. It goes into these scenes, and we jacked it up to ultra. And now Red Dead's a little bit older. I get it. But I mean, we jacked it up. He's averaging 85 frames per second on these scenes. And there's particle and dust.
Yeah,
that
and
you
I
said
didn't
you
have
could.
that before, so it's like
Yeah.
a new game.
It is. Here you go. Here's some live footage. Look at that. Going through town, the busiest part of town.
Yeah.
Dust kicking up. Look at that. I mean, it's beautiful. Look at that.
Beautiful. Yeah.
You're
and
hovering
my
around the
monitor
90s.
never
almost.
looked that good, so the DisplayPort really helped that out too.
Yeah, you got a really good bump. Running at a higher refresh rate. You don't have any screen tearing. I mean, just look at that. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I was very impressed. So I always read like these Battle Mage cards are like people, they were just blown away for the cost. I told Doug, I was like, man, if Intel keep this up, they could really have some. They could give some good competition. So I'm excited about it. Look at his average on Red Dead was 78 frames a second. His max hit 160. The lowest dip was 31, but that's a dip that it would dip and then pop right back up to like the 80 range. So yeah, that's so impressive, man. So you're gonna run it through its paces still. It's brand new. Get it all set up. What's your overall closing all thoughts? How are you feeling about it right now? Have you been able to do any other games? What other games are you going to play? I see your icons there. You got some stuff installed.
Got some good stuff.
Hell let loose.
Yeah, I just picked that up actually. Civ, we talk about Civ. You wouldn't think it's taxing, but when you get to like move 600, move 700, then all this stuff going on all over the map, it's crazy. And that takes a lot of energy, a lot of memory to do that.
I think you should do some Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I think in the future, I've talked about GTA 6. That's a big one everyone's waiting for. I'll get back on some Call of Duty. I've had a lot of people ask me that. But to kind of wrap this up, I think entering the desktop world, I'm no longer buying a whole device. That was my problem with the laptop is, oh, well, this laptop's getting a little old. I got to buy a brand new laptop at that $1,600 to $2,000 price mark. That's crazy. So now that I have this desktop, it's going to save me a ton of money, and it's going to be some really, really nice upgrades and content for you all in the future.
Yep. It's going to be awesome. And you can report back to us as you put this thing through its paces. Report back to us. But I'm curious about that video card, like how it does on different games. What are your average, you're getting on your frames per second. And out the gate, I am hypercritical because I've been doing this a long time. My passion for technology started in PC game building. You see the virtual background behind me. I was always more of a PC box game guy growing up, mainly because my brother hogged the console, but we won't get into that. But it did. I'm thankful because it put me in that direction. And as a result of doing this for so many years, I'm I'm a purist on PCs. I'm very picky. Especially on performance, and I've done it a lot in my time. And when we pulled this out, I got to admit to you, Doug, I was a little skeptical. I'm like, okay, this is. I've read the reviews of the ARC. But the minute we started putting it through its paces, and then see how fast it was, I was like, dang,
yeah.
I was very pleasantly surprised. At one point, I turned to Doug and I go, I'm rocking a 3080 Ti right now. If the Battle Mage were to release like one tier above this, I would probably consider it.
Tempting.
And I'm an NVIDIA guy. Like I have no shade against AMD, but I've always liked NVIDIA, but they're expensive. I don't know, man. It was swaying me. I was like, it's impressive. So anyway, I think that brings us on home.
Yeah.
So what do you think, man? You excited?
I am excited. We've had some really good shows. We've had some guest appearances on other shows, but really, we are starting our busy season. Next week, I think I can go ahead and give a preview that we are going to be at Comic-Con, Planet Comic-Con in Kansas City. We're going to cover that. Our podcast may be a day late just because we want to get all our photos in, all our videos in, and have a really good review of what we saw and what we've seen. But
I was a little late
we got
on
some really good stuff coming down that way.
Yeah, man, we got Comic-Con coming down the way. That's next weekend. Doug's gonna blow some more money.
Hey, let's talk about Comic-Con. I get to make a joke here. I have a special section that we're going to do next podcast of Did Doug's phone make it all day long? Because I'm taking an iPhone this year. Thank you. Thank you. And we're going to see, I'm going to take a charger just in case because I'm a little nervous. But I think my phone's going to last all day this year.
Yeah, I think you're going to really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping we don't stand outside. I'm going to try not to be a whiny baby about
not.
it. If so, I'm going to dress appropriately.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about the weather too. Hopefully it's nice because I look outside my window. There is snow on the ground.
But we had tornadoes 2 nights ago.
And we had 80-degree weather all last week. But there's snow on the ground today.
It's Missouri, man. It's like you'll have tornadoes one day, snow in the next, and then, a drought the next day. It's schizophrenic. The weather is. Weird. But so yeah, we've got some exciting things coming out. So we got the Comic-Con. We've also got coming down the way an interview lined up after Comic-Con. We're excited. You'll see who that is, a friend of ours. And then also we have the RetroCon, which we're working closely with Old Time Gamers on because we'll be working their booth. You can come out and check us out there. We're always slinging them classics, helping him out. But then we have something else exciting in that we've been working with Sumner, who is the founder and the cool dude that runs Como Retro Game Con. And we will be hosting a panel and doing a podcast recording discussion interview with none other than Mr. Rightway and Neo Ness. And hopefully some others are going to join us. I think the Zelda Hat Guy, if you haven't checked him out on YouTube, he may be there. And we're hoping he'll be able to join us. We're trying to get A Omega, mentioned him earlier. We're trying to get him to come out. So it's going to be a blast. We're going to have fun. We're going to try to sync up with them, maybe take them to some cool places in our area and just kind of share the love. So we've got so many exciting things coming down the way.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome. We're about to hit the nitro on this podcast.
Absolutely.
It's about to accelerate. So hang in there and keep checking it out. So Dougie, bring us home, man. Let's close this bad boy out.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out to all our new subscribers. Our numbers have been great, and I think we really have to thank Mr. Rightway. He's been coaching us on how to be better podcasts, how to be better content creators. So big shout out, big thank you to him, Neo Ness, everybody. But to all our new subscribers, we have 3 seasons, or this is our 3rd. We have 2 seasons past. Awesome content, awesome interviews, awesome stuff to talk about.
Retro game reviews.
Don't just watch the awesome. Those are really short and quick, informative. So don't just watch our new stuff. Go back, look at our entire catalog. Plus, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're going to have tons of pictures coming up of our conventions and stuff. Check out those. We got a merch shop. I'll let you talk about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. We got an awesome merch top. So you see that cool little sign behind Dougie there. That logo is plastered on so many cool things. And there you go. Got the banner. If you like T-shirts, you like all kinds of fun little cool little swag, you can get them out there at a very, very good price. We make sure they're priced. Because, again, Doug and I are doing this to make money. We're doing this to have fun. And so that's all. That was all. It's just it's to fund the fun. It's not for anything other than that, but to help us to enjoy and continue doing this hobby. Doug, I think you did a great job wrapping it up. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us on season number 3, episode number 9. We're heading into 10. 10 is going to be a big one with the Comic-Con KC Planet Comic-Con coming up here. You guys have an awesome week and stay nerdy.
See ya.